All right, guys, let's circle back to a time called yesterday when somebody called me, was bringing you some information that Volkanovski was going to be the backup fighter. Now, when I told you guys this, I was very clear to tell you this is according to Volkanovski. Now, why would I go out of my way to say that? If Volkanovski says it right, Journalism 101, cite your source. Well, when your source is the guy, it really doesn't leave you a whole lot of room, but for some reason, it struck me as odd. Now, I have never agreed with the marketing for the backup fighter. I personally think it's fascinating. I remember the first time I ever saw a backup fighter. I was covering the weigh-ins with Ariel Helwani, which are 9-11 and nobody's watching, and Volkov walks to the curtain. Turn to Ariel, what is Volkov doing here? We don't know. We had never even been taught the word backup fighter. We had no idea what Volkov was doing there. Now, don't forget, this isn't the ceremonial weigh-in where you come out and your opponent comes out and you face off. This is the actual weigh-in where the one half of the main event could weigh in first, and 2 hours later, the other half of the main event weighs in. So when Volkov comes out, no opposite opponent, we think we've got our notes wrong. We later find out why he's there. We're taught about this term backup fighter. We're explained the participation of $10,000 for that night. Whether that holds up and that's everybody, I don't know. But I had accurate information at least at that time. And I'll only share for you that I think it's interesting. I thought it was really interesting juxtaposition that Chandler could have stepped in at the last minute against Poirier or McGregor. Or that Kamaru Usman could have stepped in at the last minute versus Darren Till and Tyron Woodley. I find it interesting. But the UFC doesn't agree with me. So if they are completely hush-hush on a backup fighter, it would not remove the possibility that the guy is just that, a backup fighter. That would be consistent. At the same time, I know that Benny Darouche, now I'm going back to yesterday, when I came and brought you guys the piece and told you Volk was the backup fighter, I was also armed with the fact that Benny Darouche believes he is the backup fighter. I'm only resetting the table for you so that now we can have a little bit of discussion. Now, Benny has weighed in since that, and Benny said, man, I thought it was me. But I will tell you that Benny Darouche is not speaking to the boys on the second floor of the UFC. Somebody is giving Benny information. So we haven't really crossed wires here. It's still just a question of, would they use Volkanovski here? Let me give you guys a scenario, okay? Charles Olveira misses weight by half a pound. So now the world championship cannot be contested. At least it's not guaranteed to be contested. Are you guys aware of how this rule works? If you're going to have a world title fight, which we're scheduled to do at 280, if one guy, in this case, I'm going to say Charles Olveira because it's a very likely possibility considering he just did it the last time to bat, Charles comes in overweight. Charles is not eligible to become world champion. However, the fight will still take place and Islam is eligible. So if Islam wins the fight, Islam wins, the belt goes up, off we all go. So I'm going to re-ask you the scenario. If Charles misses weight by a half a pound, would you, the audience, prefer that Charles versus Islam was scrapped and that Volkanovski still fights, or I apologize, Volkanovski instead fights Islam, and you're guaranteed to have a world champion when the night is over? That was not an easy question. That's actually a really hard question because we want to see Charles and we want to see Islam. This thing has gotten very, very massive. We've had no time whatsoever to want to see Volkanovski versus Islam. We don't even have an official confirmation that that would even be a possibility under the very basic scenario that I just gave you if Charles was to miss weight. Now you could play this game again. What if Islam misses weight by half a pound and Charles makes weight? Do you want to go on and hold the match or do you want to just bring Volkanovski in? And you might have a different answer. You might have a different answer. People, at one point, it was 3-1 Islam. Those are the odds at DraftKings. 3-1 favorite. So if Charles is the skunk at the garden party, but we all think Islam's going to win anyway, we could just kick the can 24 hours. We're going to have a new champion and off we go. That may not be your same gut reaction if Islam was out and Charles stayed in. I don't know. I'm asking you because the whole backup fighter scenario is for you. And the backup fighter scenario is not just for if somebody was to get hurt, somebody was to get sick, somebody is to miss a flight. It largely is in case somebody misses weight, which is why the guy weighs in. It's why Volkov came through the curtain that night. It's why Kamaru came through the curtain. It's why Luque came through the curtain. It's why Chandler came through the curtain. I mean, you would think if you're at the 11th hour and you're at a weigh-in, so what? Why bother getting up and getting on the scale? Why bother? We've made it this far. We're going to be good. Well, no, not if a guy misses weight. So is that a preconceived notion by the UFC? I don't have the answer to that. I always considered, yes, if one guy misses weight and the backup fighter is there on weight, the backup fighter gets in. I've always considered that that's the way it was. But nobody's actually said that. Why could Islam and Charles not fight, even if Charles missed weight? If that's what you want to see, if that's the contest you want to see, if you want to see Sambo versus Jiu-Jitsu, if that's what you want to see, that's what you were promised, that's what you were looking forward to seeing, why couldn't they still deliver it to you? Does an absolute guarantee of the belt being put around somebody's waist, does that change things? I'm asking you. Because I will tell you it didn't last time. We're told as the audience that Oliveira versus Gaethje was that exact scenario. Oliveira cannot leave with the belt. If he leaves with the victory, he doesn't leave with the belt. And we're told that that was the biggest pay-per-view of the year. So I'm purely asking you, what would you like to see happen there? If both Oliveira and Islam are healthy and present, be damned with everything else. Let's get that contest and let's get it in the ring. Is that what you think? Or, if there was an infraction at the scale, would you want Volkanovski to be in? Now, before you go any further, what kind of guarantees does Volkanovski have? I mean, Volkanovski is working his ass off. He has positioned himself. There's going to be a little bit of a bulk up. He's coming off of some kind of hand injury. He's working very hard. He's getting out to Fight Island. He's crossing his fingers that something goes wrong. If something goes wrong and you don't put Volkanovski in, then you have to consider that as well. I don't have the answer for you. I don't. I don't believe that UFC 280 is going to hold up. Now, I don't know who the chicken is, but whoever the chicken is in that main card already knows who he is. He just hasn't found the courage because he's a chicken to make that phone call and get himself out of it yet. There's never been a card like this in history that's held up. I'm just sharing that with you. So when one of these guys squawked, and they're getting ready to, can Volk go in? Because there's another fight at 155. You've got Gamrot versus Darush. If Volk is there, is he only on reserve for the main event? I have a feeling yes. I don't think that Volkanovski, the world champion, undefeated, number one pound-for-pound guy in the world, is just going to go get a match just to get a match. But why not? I mean, that would make me really happy. I would really enjoy it. I love the card the way it is. I want everything to stay. I'm just offering you a scenario. If a 55-pounder on the main card, which comes down to Benny, comes down to Gamrot, extends to Charles, extends to Islam. If any one of them pulls out and Volk says, I want to go in, I don't want him forced to go in. If Volk says, no, I want to go in. I'm here, I'm on weight, I'm ready, pin me, pay me, put me in there tomorrow night. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I'm speaking for myself, but I'm asking you what you think. I mean, Dana does this and puts the backup fighter for you. He's promised you something. He's going to get as close as he can. He's doing this all for you. He'll go behind the scenes and hand Volk a check that you don't know anything about just for him being on hand, just so that Dana can come as close as he can get to fulfilling what he guaranteed you. But I want to know where you stand. Do you want Islam and Charles broken up? If you know Volk's going to step in, you know you get a great match, you know the world title's going to be up, but do you want them broken up over a half a pound? Should we come to that scenario? And what about Gamrot and Benny? If one of them doesn't make the walk and Volk's there, and Volk wants to go in, do you think you're misusing an undefeated, number one ranked, reigning champion? Or would you be impressed? Would you like to see him step in? I want to hear from you. It's possible. It's unlikely. But it's worth discussing, considered one half of this main event just did this very thing at his last time on the scale, which is he missed weight.